Hi, welcome to Bottom of the Barrel. And I didn't want to introduce this video like this. I'm not big into formalities. I just like to jump into stuff, but I feel like this needs a little bit of explanation. And to explain what the show is about, it comes from the idea of so bad it's good, which isn't something I necessarily buy into. What am I trying to say? I don't disagree if somebody likes a movie for that reason. It's just if a movie's bad, there's still merits for it to be good. It could just be so astonishingly bad that you're shocked it got made, whether it's the acting, the special effects, the cinematography. There's plenty of reasons. But sometimes there's movies where they're just so bad that they're bad. And that's what this show is. Now, it's not necessarily to shit on these movies because I feel like that's too easy and kind of cheap, but I would rather try to discuss why these movies are bad, to me anyway. Maybe shit on them a little. So I just recently saw an independent feature called Restricted Area. And well, I'm kind of lost for words right now. I have notes that I'm going to be referring to. And right now they kind of mean nothing because as I'm looking over it, I feel like I wasn't being critical enough. And I know that these are lower budget independent films, and obviously they're not on the same standard as the big budget Hollywood movies, and I would never expect that. I don't think something is bad just because it's independent or good because it's a Hollywood feature. I just feel like filmmakers should try, and I also feel like there needs to be some sort of technical know-how to make a movie, because there is a lot of glaring technical errors in this movie that are so distracting that it removed me from the film completely.
Frank, I need this job.
The movie's essentially about a group of 4 steelworkers who are laid off and decide to go on one last camping trip. I don't know why they just can't have more camping trips in the future, I guess. This is the last one before they all kill themselves or something. So along the way, they bump into this cult. It doesn't really say what the cult's objective is or what they're trying to do. They're just a cult. And when I say cult, I mean there's 2 people max in white dressed like Mormons at any given time. And I'm pretty sure they're just recycling the same extras. And then there's also a guy with long black hair and a mask. Don't really know what his deal is. And then there's another guy who's kind of like the leader, it seems like. But we'll get more into that later. I'm just going to back up a bit and say that this is a shot-on-video feature. So technical errors are expected. It's not easy to shoot with a consumer-grade equipment, and things can happen. But you can also do things like bring your own lighting or sheets to block out light in order to correct that white balance. So you're squinting at it, but it feels like your face is being assaulted because the sound is also just the worst sounding shit ever.
This does not look like a ranger.
Now, a problem with a lot of shot-on-video features is that a lot of them use the onboard microphone on the camera. And if any of you know anything about cameras, that's a huge no-no because you hear all kinds of motors whirring, not to mention the sound of wind just sounds like somebody's you're rubbing up against a cell phone or something, or crinkling a plastic bag in front of the microphone, and this makes the actors incredibly hard to hear.
It's Rose. This is her diary.
Once or twice it's forgivable, but this movie is 90% exteriors, which means it's all shot outdoors. So not only is the sun constantly washing out the whites and just making it hard to look at, this movie is hard to fucking hear. There is a number of times where I had to rewind it, and of course there's no subtitles, because I could not understand what the characters were saying because the background sounds and the wind were just so overpowering the microphone. And there's even times where the director decided he's going to shoot the characters facing away from the camera, talking in like empty rooms, so it just sounds like hollow and muffled and you can't fucking hear it. But that's enough about bitching about the technical aspects, so let's just jump into the movie. So within the first 10 minutes, you meet these two guys. One of them is just littering. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just whatever. And then you have another guy who's just wearing like a yellow safety jacket, complaining about littering and the environment. And you're not sure if it's trying to be like pro-environment or if it's trying to make fun of people who are pro-environment, which is kind of a dick move, like, yeah, fuck this littering rules. But either way, these two, like, I don't see how they're friends. Like, people like this don't hang out in real life because they bicker like an old married couple. One of them is actually Shawn Phillips, who is probably the most recognizable name in the cast. So much so that his name is on the front of the box, despite him only being in the film for less than 10 minutes. Now, this isn't a dig at Shawn Phillips. In fact, I watch his YouTube channel, and I think he makes great videos. He's incredibly entertaining. The point I'm trying to make is that independent features tend to bring the most recognizable name to the spotlight, so you'll pick it up and buy it. There's a few other examples I know, like Doug Bradley in Scream Park, and like Daniel Harris in Camp Dread. In those, they're only in the film for less than like 3 minutes. So they run into this cult and they immediately get killed. And this is where I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a horror comedy or if it's supposed to be a serious horror movie, because the way the guy's flailing at his guts, like with his hands like flopping around like that and just screaming, like tells me it's a comedy. But the tone of the music and the tone of the rest of the movie tries to tell me that it's serious. So now we jump into the story with the four main steelworkers, where they are getting laid off, which was a decision made by their board of directors. And I'm not sure, but do steel mills have boards of directors? I thought that was a thing for like corporations of like retail or pharmacy or something like. I don't know, I guess it would make sense if they did. I tried looking it up and I couldn't get a definite answer. And in this scene, going back to the technical errors, it gets a little worse because it literally sounds like a speaker blew.
Frank, I need this job. I got a pregnant wife and kid at home. What am I supposed to do?
It sounds like either there's not some sort of shielding protecting the audio and the video signal, or if something happened to the cable frayed a little, because there's that low buzzing sound throughout one specific shot. And this is immediately when I started checking the runtime, because there are so many fucking establishing shots. Like, there's a shot of the woods. There's a shot of some rocks. There's a shot of some water going over some sticks. Here's a shot of some trees. Here's a different shot of the rocks. Here's a different shot of the water. Like, it's just establishing shots piled on top of establishing shots. And that's when I realized this movie is an hour and 50 minutes. And this is also the time where I realized the music. I didn't know what to call it. It's kind of like CW theme songs, like if anybody remembers the theme from Smallville or some shit like that. What did I call it in my notes? Hold on. Okay. Soft cock rock. Oh yeah. Nobody in this movie has sleeves on their shirts. This is all sleeveless shirts. Which, I don't know why that's hysterical to me. I think it's because I noticed immediately that there is every type of clothing without sleeves. Like, your main guy has the sleeveless fleece, and the other guy has a sleeveless jean jacket, and another guy has like a sleeveless muscle tee, and then someone else has like a sleeveless hoodie. Like, they just got on set and the director was like, get rid of those fucking sleeves now! There ain't gonna be any sleeves in this fucking movie, you know what I mean? I'm making a real sleeveless movie. We're gonna have hunky dudes, just fucking muscles hanging out. Nothing's really happening. Like, the only thing that's happened at this point is they've seen two of the cult members listening to the radio, and they're just like, whatever, and they keep walking. They don't pay any mind to it. Now, they do stop to have some lunch, which is all bro-fisting over chicks. And I don't know if there's a reverse or an opposite for the Bechdel test, which, for those of you who don't know, it's how long a movie can go with two lead female characters before they talk about guys. So is there one for it's like how long a movie full of dudes can go without talking about chicks? And also, this guy's sandwich, like, it's making crunching sounds like he's eating a Dorito. Like, I don't know if the director's never had a sandwich and he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they sound like. You crunch on it, it's a sandwich, right? Nice crunchy sandwich.
Are you jealous? You want a bite?
So, it's just more establishing shots, more of nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, not nothing. The only other type of shot in this movie is the characters walking from place to place. There's more walking in this movie than maybe Lord of the Rings and Birdemic. Like, you see them walking to the treed forest area, and then it cuts to them walking further down the path, and then further down the path, and then they're walking up to a cabin, and then they open the door and go in the cabin. You are literally walking with these characters as they take every footstep. This is why this movie is nearly 2 hours long. So eventually two of the bros run into some other bro and his girl, and this bro doesn't have sleeves either. But she's sick of him for whatever reason, and they just come up and they're like, well, you could come with us. We're only a bunch of skeevy, pervy dudes if you want to hang out. And she's just like, alright, whatever, fuck this dude. Actually, what happens next, I was kind of surprised. I'm just kidding, they fucking walk more. Now, this is where they're walking along and they see one of those Mormons, but this time they decide to hide. And, yeah, the long-haired masked guy is there, so you could argue, oh, it's because they saw him, but it's like, nothing was done previously to establish that these guys were bad. It's like the campers just decided to fucking hide. Like, oh, we can't let people see us, duck down and hide. So you do see that girl's boyfriend again. Like, he's apparently just been running through the woods and maybe he walked a big circle around him or something. But he comes back. And he's like, oh, there's some guy out there trying to kill me. And then the long-haired masked guy starts killing him. And the girlfriend's just watching it, just like, I guess that happens. Yeah, he's getting killed. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to emote. Nothing. And then as soon as the killer's done, she's like, oh, fuck! I could omit the fact that at this point there's also more campers being introduced, but they're just there to fill a body count quota, I guess, because they're just introduced and killed off. And that sort of thing always bothers me in a movie. It's like, why? We're an hour into this nearly 2-hour movie, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, more characters. Never mind. Oh, yeah, so these bros have no remorse in killing people. Like, they're just fucking snapping people's necks, and like it's second nature to them. Because they just do it with so much ease. Like, they're just like, oh, yeah, we snap necks all the time. We fucking murder all the time. It's cool. You don't murder? Oh, yeah. So, I don't know what's really going on in this movie. It's just like they're just being pursued. And it's just walking. And that's what's making talking about this movie difficult, is I feel like I'm just like, oh, this happens. And this happens. And this happens. And then that happens. Because it's just like random things going on. There doesn't seem to be a narrative. We're just like... We're almost toward the end of the movie, and there's barely been any plot. I mean, so far I can just sum it up as they're just being pursued in the woods by these cult people. Now, maybe I quit paying attention at some point or something, because I have no idea what this cult is trying to accomplish. They're just don't like people coming in their woods, or they're just a bunch of dicks or something. I don't know. The dude bros find this cabin and they go in, and there's like a little DVD burned for them already, and it's got like this little label drawn on it, and it says "Play Me." It's just like the cult people actually took the time to assemble this. They're like, oh, does anybody know how to use iMovie or Avid. And then they're gonna leave the disc out and they're like, no, you gotta like draw a fucking symbol on it so they know it's from us, and you gotta write play me so they know what to do. And eventually they end up killing the long-haired masked guy, so I guess they win? Kinda for the moment, or not at all, or maybe they did. But then it goes to this weird cliffhanger where you see the cult leader from like the beginning and he's talking to someone on a cell phone when he name drops Senator something, or I think he just says Senator. So like now all of a sudden a senator is involved, like all of a sudden just out of nowhere they're bringing politics into this, like we're all supposed to be like, oh shit, what is the relevance to having a political figure in on your cult? Like, what does your cult do? If we knew what your cult did and what the senator was doing for the cult, like, it would fucking make sense. Because this movie just needs to keep on dragging, because, you know, maybe if you're still awake, or maybe if you're being tortured by someone and they're making you watch this, there's another ending. And it cuts to 6 months later where one of the dude bros gets another DVD and he puts it in his DVD player, and it was one of the guys from the beginning who got kidnapped. And he's like, hey, I'm still alive, so you guys gotta come find me. But he's like perfectly clean shaven and showered, his clothes are dirt free. So it's good to know that, you know, he's doing pretty well for himself despite being on the run from the cult. And you know, he's apparently eating and drinking plenty of water, so that's good too. Give me just a few more minutes. I'm finishing up a video. And that's restricted area. Now that I'm thinking about it too, there was never a sign in the movie that said like restricted area. Now wouldn't that make more sense if they went into the woods and it was like posted that the area was restricted, so then this cult would be there for doing whatever? That's one of the major issues I had with the plot, if you want to call it that, is that nothing is even set up. I'm not saying it has to be like meaningful and deep or fully explained. Just, you gotta at least tell me something. Instead, this movie is just like the cinematography. It's just aimless and long and filler. You could have easily cut out 30 to 40 minutes of this movie and it would have been maybe a little more tolerable. But for what it is at nearly 2 hours, with all the technical errors and just because so much of it is boring filler, like, I cannot recommend this. And that's kind of what Bottom of the Barrel is. It's just reviewing some of the worst things that I've seen, and I just want to talk about them. And if your opinion varies than mine, I think that's awesome, because I want you to enjoy things like this. I want you to enjoy movies. It's just I'm stating my opinion because there's a camera in front of me and I can upload it to YouTube. Thank you for watching, and you know, if you want to support me and what I do, which is this show, and I also do artwork, so if you head on over to totallyterror.com, you can buy some prints of my artwork, and it would be greatly appreciated. It would help put food in my belly, put food in my guinea pigs' bellies, and also keep the lights on. Have a good night.